myself.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Really? It's close enough where we can go scooping for the games on Friday and far enough away where he can still say, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Well, because I do get to see him frequently.
Yeah. It's good though that it's up to him. You're not like you
Yeah.
have to come
My
over. That's good.
husband reminds me of
Yeah.
Brandy.
Yeah.
Give him space, give him space.
Yes.
Did somebody switch us, or are we good with the switch? Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Grand Rapids Community College Board of Trustees meeting Monday, October 16, 2023. Wonder if any trustees or you, President Lepper, have any guests in the audience you would like to introduce. Anyone?
I do have guests. The first I would like to introduce Natalie Fraze, who's an occupational therapy assistant student here at GRCC. She had a piece displayed in Art Prize. Natalie, go ahead and stand up.
Okay.
And this is, from my understanding, this is your first piece of artwork.
Yes,
that-
I was crazy.
And so it's called Silent Absence, and it's a sculptured chair with painted kidney beans, and it was featured at JW Marriott. And so Natalie entered this into Art Prize and was selected to participate. And some of you may have seen her piece. Is there anything you would like to share with us, Natalie?
Yeah.
Can you ever come to the podium?
Come on up to the podium.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
Okay.
So we can, so,
Fine.
Hi, I'm Natalie. So yes, this was my first piece, so a little bit about me. I actually met my husband online on Match.com, and a month later I went into kidney failure from strep throat. He stayed by my side. We moved here to Michigan to go through the Trinity Health kidney transplant program, and he actually got tested and was a match. And so we ended up having a successful kidney transplant surgery, and then because of that surgery, we were able to have 2 beautiful children. And it's been an amazing story. Our story was actually on the Today Show and People magazine, and we've spread awareness in a bunch of different ways. So I saw Art Prize as a great opportunity to spread more awareness, even though I'm not a formal artist. And so the kidney beans represent kidney disease and kind of how it slowly takes over a person's life. And the chair represents a place at the table with your loved ones, and just kind of how the disease takes you away from everything that you really, truly love and hold dear. And then you can't really see it in the picture, but at the top there is a white flower made of kidney beans, and that represents hope for a cure. And so I was really honored to just be able to participate and spread awareness about kidney disease, and I will never stop spreading awareness until I'm not here anymore. So I'm honored to actually be here and be able to spread more awareness. So,
We're
yeah.
honored you're here.
that's an amazing story and beautiful piece of artwork, but the story complements the art piece even more. And so I'm so glad that you're able to do that and have a beautiful story to share with us. Thank you. We also had additional folks from GRCC and Art Prize. The other person I want to introduce is Matthew Shank, who's an assistant professor. Matthew, come on up. And Matthew had a piece that actually was an honorable mention piece, and that was in our Collins Art Gallery, so if you had a chance to stop by. And I am going to probably butcher the pronunciation, but I'm going to try nonetheless. Mukatuka Kudli, Fascism Killed the Old Gods is the title of this. Was I even close?
It's Mitlant Kudli, I
Okay,
believe.
we'll go with that.
And it's the Aztec god of the underworld. Do you have the other image? Yeah. So there are 2 images. It's about societies imposing their will on other societies, and it's pretty dark. That's a 3D model that I sculpted in a computer, and it's digitally processed in a program called KeyShot to make it look 3D and realistic. And then it's worked over in Photoshop and Illustrator. and procreate. So there's a lot to it. But yeah, I'm going to enter the same thing next year as a sculpture, I believe, because it is a 3D sculpture. I can print it out, and I'm going to make it in metal. So
So you received honorable mention for the digital category, that's correct?
Yes. Yep. Which is pretty fun.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Well, this was the first time I was here for Art Prize, and it was an amazing event, and just so impressive that you both had beautiful pieces in there, and we're all just very proud of you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Let's move on then with our agenda. The next item will be to remove anything from the consent agenda if anyone is so inclined to do that. I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda, but before I do that, does anyone wish to move something from the consent agenda? Hearing none, a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Support? Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We move with the agenda as printed. That moves us to public comment. We have 2 opportunities for public comment at all of our meetings. The first is comment on anything that's in the agenda. The second later on in the meeting is comment on anything that relates to the college. So is there anyone in our audience who wishes to step forward and address the board on any matter that's on today's agenda? Seeing no one move forward, we're going to move right on then to our special order of business. First item on that category is the acceptance of the 22-23 annual audit. And I'm going to ask our representation from Plant Moran. Lisa, did you want to introduce Vicki to us? Now, would you be willing to do that? And then we'll turn it over to the 2 of you.
Yes, good afternoon and thank you. I have Vicki Vandenberg here from Plant Moran. She is the partner on our annual external audit. Pleased to report that our audit is complete and she can share with you directly the results of the same. Before I turn that over to her, I would like to say thank you to both Todd and Nat who are here. They do the bulk of the work and preparation for this process with the teams in their offices, and certainly appreciate all of the work that goes into getting ready and moving through the audit process. Vicki, I will turn it over to you.
Vicki, welcome back.
Thank you.
See you once a year. Yeah.
Once a year.
Yeah, thanks.
You probably don't want to see me more than that.
Might be a good thing, too. Yeah, that's-
True. It's a pleasure to be here, President, trustees, and guests, and to present the annual audit report. I believe included in your packet is a full copy of the nice lengthy audit report. It is the one time a year where you see all funds of the college collapsed into what we call a business type activity, business presentation of the college. And so I'm going to go through a couple of graphs. We've done this the last couple of years to highlight some key points, and then can take any questions that you have as well. I think. There we go. I went the wrong way. Okay. So just a summary of what we want to present to you. Again, the audited financial statements, the nice thick document that you had. We did give you the clean, unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of assurance that we can give the college. On the following pages of the slideshow, we've going to cover some key financial highlights overall, and then as part of the general fund, which is your core operating fund that you really monitor and hear regularly about, as well as an inclusion of report on internal control over financial reporting. And then there's a required communications letter included in your packet. I'm just going to touch on a couple of items that, and then just an update on the audit of your federal programs. So looking quickly at the college as a whole, this brings in all of the assets and liabilities and balance sheet here. But on the asset side, capital assets, the buildings and all of the equipment and everything we're looking at right now, that is the largest asset of the college. And then your long-term investments is about 18% of your assets. Accounts receivable, it's not unusual at the end of the year to have that be a really small amount because you're in between semesters. And then cash and cash equivalents, your liquid part is about 11%. Deferred outflows is this unique terminology that we have in the accounting world, and that is future expenditures. So it's an asset now because it doesn't have to go out later. It all has to do with the retirement system. Don't even ask It won't make any sense. It's in and out. Someday that'll go away, just like someday the pension obligation will go away, and so will this other asset called a liability called a deferred inflow. On the liability side, about $289 million. Again, the largest piece is the piece you can't control, and that is the net pension liability as well as the net OPEB liability. Those are pretty substantial this year. The state lowered the discount rate, and when they lowered the discount rate, that raises the obligation. This is your allocated share. So combined, it's about 192 million this year compared to 182 million no, 130 million last year. So again, that doesn't mean you have to pay that today. That's just an obligation, your allocated share every year. What you do have control over are the smaller pieces there, your accounts payable, your accrued compensation, unearned revenue, and your long-term obligations. That is your bond obligations mostly, and a few other items. And then the deferred inflows is another piece that relates to the pension. So with that, you can see, if you didn't have to record that, it would be a really small set of obligations. Flipping over to the revenue, expenses, and changes in that position, this is where we take all funds of the college, we break all of your revenues into either operating or non-operating components, and then show all of your expenses, and then what your actual change in that position is. It's not truly net income, but it's just the change in all of those revenues and expenses. So operating revenues, these are your exchange transactions. So these would be things like your auxiliary services, bookstore, cafeteria, parking, all of those fall into that area, as well as your tuition, your net tuition. So that's up a little bit, 57.1 million compared to 54.3 million. All of your expenses except for interest are deemed operating expenses. So this is your instruction, all of your administration, your operation and maintenance and plant, all of your academic type programs. That's up a little bit as well, 133.1 million compared to 126.9. Salaries and benefits drives a significant component of that 133 million. And then your non-operating, this is where your state appropriations is, this is where your property taxes and your Pell Grant revenue, and over the last several of years, this is where your HERF funds were, your federal stimulus funds. So back in 21, you recognized about 33 million of HERF funds. Last year, it was about 15 million of HERF funds. This year, it was 57,000. Because you have spent it all. So that's why you can see a decline in that non-operating revenues to 95.8 compared to 104.3. So again, so that means your change in net position. Oh, I should also point out, in 22, you also had a small amount of state capital contributions from your last project, but that was fully received, so you didn't have any of that in 23. So your change in net position, or net income, for lack of better words, is 19.8 million compared to 38.7 million. Let's look a little bit at just the general fund. And this slide got a little bit cut off when I moved it over to you. Lisa, do you have that copy of that slide? Because it's not going to show up well here. Thank you. Sorry. This shows just the general fund, which is your core operations. You can see tuition and fees down a couple of million. State appropriations, though, is up. Some of that state appropriations, though, was give extra money for the pension, which then you had to turn around and send right back to the state. Property taxes also up. And then others, some small sources. So revenue is 123.9 million, and then your operating expenses and transfers 123.7. So you did increase your fund balance about $200,000 this year, which is a pretty good break even for the year. You should feel good about that, given some of the a lot of expenses came back, specifically a big increase in salary expenses for most institutions. But your fund balance beginning of the year, which is this is being cut off, is at about 24 million and is now up at 24.2 million. So as a percent of your expenses and transfers, that's at 19.6 million. So just down slightly. It was about 20% last year, well with what we would expect you to see from a standpoint of that percentage of your reserves, for lack of a better word. So that letter we also gave you, the required communication, so the scope of audit was as planned. We received complete cooperation. The letter has no issues noted. It's just a lot of information about what's happening out there in the industry. And then I did want to share that we actually have kind of one small GASB document. You know, every year we seem to have been going through about all these new changes to your report every year. This year was a real minor adoption, which had no impact or insignificant impact on your statements. You will have a year off next year, June 30, 24, nothing to adopt. That's a yay moment. But I think this GASB 101 compensated absences will probably have a pretty substantial impact in June 30, 25. And that'll hit mostly expenses and accrued obligations. Just quickly on the single audit standpoint, so this is the audit of your federal programs. Within their financial statements is federal expenditures of about 29.2 million. We'll be auditing, or we are auditing, student financial aid, which is 22.3 million. You have 2 Department of Labor standalone grants, one for $1 million and one for 1.7. These are the expenditures in the current year. Some of those grants are pretty substantial, $5 million grants, I think both of them are. TRIO, which is a long-standing program and hasn't had to be audited because HERF was such a big piece of your federal grants the last couple of years, at just under $1 million. And then vocational education, this is Carl D. Perk, it's mostly equipment expenditures, that's about $1 million. So we're auditing all of those programs, and it's taking us a little bit of time because there's so many of them this year. And so testing is still in process, but we are close to finalizing that. So with that, I'll just entertain any questions anybody has.
So just open it up for questions or comments, anyone?
Let me just clarify one thing you've said. Did I hear correctly that our obligation for pension went from 130 to 190? All right. So at some point, I'd probably like to better understand how that works.
It's a timing allocation as well. So when the discount rate went from, and I think it is disclosed in here. What happens is every time they lower the discount rate, it increases the obligation. So for example, last year, it was 123 million with some of the changes they made. It went up to 181 million on the pension, but that was changing it from 6.8 to 6%. So if they change it again, for example, if they take it down another percent to 5%, which is really what the industry market is, it'd be at 240 million. But that's just your allocated share. You continue to pay what you're obligated to pay every year. The state has continued to pay provide you additional allocations that then you write a check to the Office of Retirement Services for. But this has been a long-standing issue with this plan being significantly underfunded.
So Vicki, you said it's a big number. It's here. It's not one we worry about, but we do worry about because it's here. We don't worry about because there are those that believe that the plan will go in perpetuity. It'll continue forever. We're all reminded of plans that didn't continue forever. We're all reminded of plans that either were frozen or some kind of break was put on the plan. And I don't even have a question, although I always have a knot in the pit of my stomach when I see that number because it's a real number for us.
Yes.
So someone in their wisdom could say, you know what, this plan is so underfunded, why don't we just freeze this plan right now, and why don't we call in our obligations? If that unlikely scenario were to happen, what would be the implications of that for us?
Yeah. In the unlikely, so for example, maybe they said today, the state said, we're freezing the plan, all members have to pay their unfunded obligation. What would typically happen is that in order to do that, you would probably have to issue some type of bond, and you would have to pay that in over a period of time, likely 30 or 40 years. And that is actually what happened back in '95 when the universities, there were 7 universities in the plan, essentially froze their piece. They were going to do that, and instead they've kind of been separated in the plan, but that's what they would have had to do.
I don't want to belabor that, no, but that is an issue that just causes acid, quite frankly. I have another question about a much smaller number. So when you look at our what we budget for uncollectible accounts, when I do the math, it just feels big to me. It feels like a lot of $2,000 tuitions that people aren't paying or whatever. Does that number strike you as large, normal, when you look at your metric for percentage of accounts receivable? I don't have that figure in front of me here, but it just struck me as a large.
You want to address that, or you would like me to?
Why don't you start, and then I'm happy to.
Yeah. So what that is made up of is mostly really, really old student receivables, because what happens is, in general, most students have to pay at the beginning of the semester. And then if they drop out and they get federal funds, you have to return the federal funds and then reinstate the student's receivable and then try and collect from them. That is very hard to do. So that's probably most of it.
Yeah,
off
I
the top
would
of my
say
head.
that the number is reasonable and likely very much in agreement with
Yeah.
what other institutions of
Okay,
our
okay,
size
yeah.
have. And actually, over the past 6 years, is reduced. Our number used to be significantly higher than that. And working with our academic team and the enrollment team in financial aid, we've put some practices in place that has allowed us to work that number down. So it's lower than it used to be.
Other questions, any trustees? Then we're not surprised. We're not surprised by the clean audit. We're getting used to that. We are used to that. And I know that if I were in our finance office, I would always be a little nervous when it would be audit time, because that year will come when all of a sudden there's that glitch, I suppose. Well, it didn't come again this year, which we're incredibly grateful for. As a board, we need to accept this audit. That's different than approving the audit. We don't approve it, because what do we know about audits? But we can accept it. So I will accept a motion to accept the audit as presented. Thank you. Is there support for that? I think I heard support. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. So that motion does carry. So once again, Vicki and your team, thank you so much for the work that you do and assure us that everything is in good order. And also congratulations to you, Lisa, and your team.
And like Lisa already mentioned, kudos to everybody who helps us out in the entire process, because it is not easy for them to prepare for it. And we come in and kind of mess around with their summertime. So.
Sure. We get it.
So, thank
All
you.
right, thank you so much. I am going to invite Lisa now to the podium to give us whatever financial update she would like to give us at this time.
Good afternoon again. And at this point, I won't belabor financial data, as I'm assuming that the June 30 audit is probably most important at this point in time. However, we'll point out that September statements were in your packet. Would, of course, be happy to answer any questions that you might have around them. One of the things that you will see, perhaps as you're looking at general fund, is, as we had mentioned last time, revenue continues to come in excess or higher than we had budgeted. So that trend is continuing. We'll say that with exception of state aid, our first state aid payment for this fiscal year will come in October. Thus, you'll not see anything recorded except for some minor pension adjustment items in the September 30 financial statements, but that is as planned. That state aid comes to us in equal payments, more or less, from October through next August, which all gets accrued to this fiscal year. The other thing I would point out, as we mentioned last time, is that we are working on a budget amendment for you. We had anticipated bringing that to you in October. We are not quite done working with executive leadership, finalizing a couple of those items, and we'll plan on bringing that to you for your consideration and potential approval at your November board meeting. Again, in just trying to get the opportunity to move forward with some of the positions that we have put on hold, waiting on enrollment for this fall, prior to the start of next semester. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, if anyone has them on September statements or anything else.
See none? Thank you very much. We'll move on to a few updates. I'm going to invite Aaron Venegman and Lisa Dopke to the podium for a foundation update.
Well, good afternoon, President Lepper, Chairperson Cucci, Misty McClure-Anderson, and Board of Trustees members. I'm pleased to provide you with a few updates from our foundation team regarding the work we've been doing and also planning for the upcoming months. The foundation hosted the Armin Omedian Consecutive Giving Club event in September to honor our newest award recipients and club members. This year, we honored Dick and Judy Bazile for their 43 years of consecutive giving to GRCC. And Dick and Judy are both retirees of GRCC. At this event, we also celebrated our club members and their different milestone years of consecutive giving. So I wanted to share just a few impressive stats about this club. Over the last year, we had 45 new members join the club, which makes 255 active members in the club with consecutive giving years ranging from 2 to 47 years. And over the last year, club members gave $1.1 million to scholarships. Initiating this club has provided a great way to recognize and thank those who consecutively year after year, and also encourage others to give in this way. September was a busy month because we also hosted our third Women in Philanthropy event. At this meeting, we heard from Michael Shavy, Director of Experiential Learning, about the Study Away program and additional costs students incur associated with this. Members generously gave to support this learning opportunity for our students. We will have our last meeting of the year on December 7th, and we will hear from the director of our preschool. At this meeting, we will be adopting families at the preschool to help give them a wonderful Christmas. The preschool staff will identify a few GRCC students who send their kids to the preschool, and then we can support them in this way. Overall, we've been excited to see this group grow over the course of the year and also generously provide financial support to each of the programs or initiatives we presented to them. As some of you may know, we are also celebrating homecoming this week. So throughout the week, there's a bunch of different activities for students, employees, retirees, and alumni. So to join in on any of those activities, you can go to our main webpage and type in homecoming, and you can follow the week along. Next week is a big week. On Tuesday, October 24, we'll be celebrating Scholar Fest. This year, we're honoring Dr. Jim Bezzetta and family. So Dr. Bezzetta is a distinguished alum, foundation board director, and previous chairperson of the board, as well as a generous supporter of the college and students. The event will be held at the Secchia Piazza and will involve a friendly competition, which is kind of a new little twist this year. Alumni chefs have come up with the Italian theme menu for the evening and will be assisted by current culinary students. The alumni chefs that we're featuring they all have their own catering business, and that night they'll have the opportunity to showcase their business too. To date, we've raised $133,000 and 133 people will be attending, but there's always room for more, so if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, you can do so by contacting our office or visiting the webpage. So I did want to address that in your packet, you should have also received a draft copy of our annual report. The report is in the process of being finalized and will be mailed to homes mid-November. But this report tells the stories of students, alumni, donors, and employees and why giving to the GRCC Foundation is so impactful. This report is worked on over several months and a project that all of college advancement teams work collaboratively on. And now just a quick scholarship awarding update. To date, we have awarded almost $1 million to over 1,000 students, and we still have more awards to make for the winter semester. But finally, I wanted to share a message from a scholarship recipient. This scholarship recipient said, "I am thankful for receiving this scholarship because it helps pay for books and expenses outside of tuition and fees. I'm a senior citizen and decided that it was too late for me to attend college. When I graduated from high school over 50 plus years ago, I had to go straight to the workforce to support myself. Life happens. I got married, I had 3 children, and worked intermittently while taking care of my family. I am now a widow, receive Social Security and a small pension from my husband's retirement. I appreciate being considered for and receiving the minority scholarship." So I share this just because it's always a great reminder of who our students are and how much your support means to them. So with that, that's my update for today, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions? That annual report, by the way, looks really nice that
Great.
you put together. It's very well done.
Thank
That's
you.
very
Yeah, and thanks for highlighting Nikki Smith and the foundation. That was really
Certainly, yeah.
terrific and well-deserved.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
I have a quick question about the, when you say 1 million this year, do you mean this academic school year or calendar year?
For the scholarships awarded?
Yes.
Academic school year. Yep. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Can't believe a year has gone by already. It seems like I was just up here. But I'm here to present the annual grants report, which was July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. This year we had 30 grants awarded for $9.1 million. This was a little bit more than our average, which is generally in the range of $4.5 to $6 million. A new figure that we put on the report this year was that the department submitted 23 proposals requesting just over $34 million. And so the 30 grants that we were awarded is not represented in that 23. Some of the grants were from last fiscal year that were reported, but also from the previous fiscal year. In addition, we had a new federal award from the new federal agency, Health Resources and Services Administration, and that funded our community health worker training program. We also received the first congressionally directed spending request that we've been able to apply for. That was just over $1 million, and it's for an automation lab. We also received a new sport opportunity grant, which provided scholarships for students in the new soccer program. And we received a grant for the Prioritizing Parent Fund, which is part of the Kent County Early Childhood Millage. And that was a supplementary grant to the other work that we already do with the Play and Learn groups. It provided playtime for parents, a conference, and just additional learning opportunities. That was my report. Do you have any questions?
Just a comment, just thanks. Wow.
You're welcome.
You guys are behind closed doors cranking out all these grant applications. It's amazing how many people that allows to put to work, how many students that allows us to serve.
Yeah.
We recognize that, and we certainly do appreciate that. So any questions at all, anybody? All right, Lisa, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to President's report. Dr. Lepper.
Great, thank you. So I have quite a bit of information to share with you. We have finally settled our enrollment for fall of 2023 and reported that. We saw an increase of 3.23% this semester, which equates to about 2.87% increase in our budget based upon FTE. That some areas that I really would highlight in that is we saw a 10% growth or increase in our returning students, which many of you know is often our challenge in community colleges, that we lose students between our first and second year. But we also saw 11.8% growth in our Hispanic Latino population and 11.3% growth in our Black African American population. So we haven't obviously finished the semester, so our numbers will go up maybe slightly, but not much as we enter into our second 7-week. And so we have set a goal for our winter semester, and we'll update you on that more during the work session. Also today we sent out, and you may have seen in some of the newspapers, our press release regarding our economic impacts study. During the 2020-21 We had an estimated $1 billion economic impact in Kent and Ottawa counties. There's a combination of things of how we get there, but some of the impressive numbers from there is that for every dollar that a student spends, they'll receive $8.90 in return for every dollar that they spend on their lifetime earnings. Taxpayers will receive a similar benefit of $3.30 for every dollar that's invested in the college. And society as a whole, which looks at Michigan specifically for added income and social savings, that number is $14.80. So we are generating more benefit to Kent and Ottawa counties than we receive from a tax benefit standpoint. And you should have those executive summaries in your packet for you to read. And we're happy to answer any questions that you may have about that at a later time.
Can I just interrupt a moment? There may be somebody in the back row that thought you said $1 million. They may not have heard $1 billion.
1 billion with
There
a
we
B.
go. All right. I
1
just want to make
billion.
sure we all heard the billion right of the
Yes,
million.
yes, it's an impressive number and one we're proud of.
All right, keep going.
But also just share with you that we engaged in our first Campus Safety and Security Week here at the college this fall. And so a number of people were involved in that process, including our students. Some of the things that we've done to help make our campus more secure is that we reviewed which of our doors were open and unlocked during the day. We have locked many of the doors on campus to direct students and employees and visitors to primary entrances that are more visible. And starting at 7 p.m., those primary entrances are locked, and students and employees need their ID card to get in. So students can still access the same spaces on campus after 7 p.m. It's a universal access, but it helps us monitor and know who's in what building when, and should we need to respond in any way. There hasn't been any major concerns from that. In fact, the feedback that I have received has been very positive, that people appreciate that we've taken this step to make sure that we're doing our part to help make our campus as safe as possible. In addition to that, I would just share with you that each year we're required to publish campus crime statistics. That is available on our website now. If you would like to go in and take a look at those, type in campus crime statistics. You'll see the report for GRCC. We are a very safe campus in general, but we're not immune, obviously, to any concerns out there. But we overall remain very safe. During the Campus Safety Week, we also did daily messaging to all of our faculty, staff, and students, and we tested all of our systems to make sure that everything works. And we also have just recently engaged in a technology cybersecurity program called Know Before, and this helps us simulate phishing attacks, so on and so forth, so that we can test our processes and our systems with end users. And so this is considered an industry best practice. This particular vendor is very well recognized, and this helps us mitigate some of those various cyber attacks which some institutions have been targeted here in the state of Michigan this year. The other things I would mention is that we have launched our first Spanish language landing page, GRCC in Espanol, and we cover our information on admissions and financial aid information in Spanish, as well as the ability to schedule appointments with Spanish-speaking staff. And again, if you go to our website and scroll down, you'll see that listed there. We continue to receive high praise for our Sequia Piazza, so I want to again mention the recognition that we've gotten. So the American School and University Publications named it the Outstanding Design in 2023. The Washtenaw Contractors Association awarded it the Pyramid Award for projects between $3 and $25 million. And we also were on the Construction Association of Michigan's their CAM magazine cover. And we have some nominations still out for the project with the Associated Builders and Contractors Excellence in Construction Award, and we'll know more about that shortly. Finally, Lisa Dopke mentioned First Steps Kent. We did receive our letter of approval to continue our Play and Learn at GRCC, and that grant through that millage was $404,000. And so we were notified of that we will continue to be able to provide that service through our Early Learning Child Center. The Giants Awards nominations are open until October 31st, so if you know someone you would like to nominate for that award, You can go to website, type in Giant Awards, and it'll take you to the nomination form. There is a new nomination form that is there, and those close at 5 p.m. on October 31st. And then the event will take place on Saturday, February 4th in the DeVos Place Exhibit Hall. We're in a larger room this year. We were at capacity last year with about 600 folks, and I think the space that we're moving to will allow us to have, and I'm looking at Mary Slavkowski, to about 900, I believe.
That's correct, sir.
And so we will be able to increase capacity, and we were sold out last year, so hopefully we'll continue to fill space there. Athletics, we are having a great year in terms of athletics, so I'll run through some of these items quickly. Our men's soccer is 10-1-1 overall, 6-1 in the conference, and have qualified for the regional tournament and are currently ranked 13th in the nation among Division II community college programs. Our women's soccer are 6-9. Volleyball, we are 9-3 and currently tied for the MCCAA North title. And if we win against Thursday on Mount Calm, we will have the title outright. And currently we're ranked 9th in the nation from a standpoint of community colleges. Cross country has one regular season meet left on Saturday. We will host that at Douglas Park and Byron Center, and they are currently ranked 19th in the nation. Baseball and softball start to play their fall games, and basketball starts on November 1st. And in the home stretch of my report, I want to give a shout out to our marketing team. Recently, we received as an institution 10 awards at the National Council for Marketing and Public Relations that represents community colleges in the United States and Canada. So we received 6 gold awards, 1 silver award, and 3 bronze awards. And so that is a very, very high number. I've asked our team to check to make sure, or to see if that is the highest number of awards given to one community college. Last year, I think we got 6 awards, and we received more than any community college last year. So the fact that we got 10 this year makes me think that we're repeating that. So we'll confirm that and let you know, but something that we should be very, very proud of. And the awards range from our commencement program to the impact report from the Armin Omedian Consecutive Giving Award, signage, just so many things that we submitted submissions for and were recognized in 10 of those categories. And that concludes my report.
Any questions?
I have a question about the economic impact. When I'm out touting this, which I'd like to do because it's impressive, the investment analysis at the bottom, for every $1 spent, students gain $8.90 in lifetime earnings. And then for every dollar spent by taxpayers, there's a $3.30 return. Is the spending of the dollar by the students, by the taxpayers, and by society, or is it, who's spending that $1 when I'm explaining this?
So as I understand it, is that from a student tuition piece, for every dollar the student invests in their education, that will come back to them $8.90. So approximately $9,600 each year that they're employed. The $3.30 comes from primarily our property taxes that are invested in the institution through the millage and other sources. So for every dollar that taxpayers in Kent County primarily are investing, they'll see a $3.30 return from additional tax revenue that people with higher incomes are spending and putting back into the system. And then the societal gains looks more large picture from a social services savings perspective for the entire state of Michigan, and primarily looking at what revenues or what investments the state are making in our institution. And so that was measured at $14.80.
Thank you.
Does that provide clarity?
Yes.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you very much, Dr. Lepper. Community connections, the board did receive communication from a constituent who questioned our decision to close the natatorium. we responded to that and helped that constituent increase their understanding of what was behind our decision. Moving on to the consent items, a motion please to approve the consent items on our agenda.
Moved.
Support for that? Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. That leads us then to purchase items over 100,000. There were several in our agenda. A motion please to approve the purchases over 100,000. Support for that?
Support.
All in favor, or discussion, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. That leads us back to you, Lisa, and Vicki, if you are here, I'll invite the two of you to the podium to present and describe the capital outlay submission that we present to the state.
Thank you, and good afternoon again. This is our annual visit to you for capital outlay, and both the 5-year plan and the actual submission project request. I'm going to ask Vicki to go through or take you through at a very high level the 5-year plan, and then I will come back and talk about our submission and why we have what we have.
Thanks.
In October, I'm the other Vicki that you only have to see once a year, and that's probably a good thing too. So
Not a good thing.
anyway, capital outlay, this should look very familiar. The state requires community colleges and universities to submit every year a 5-year update plan. It is a rolling plan. The format did not change at all this year. So what we do institutionally is start with last year's submission and then do the necessary updates. So this year, the plan has been updated to reflect the changes in the strategic plan. We make updates clearly to the data. We also make updates to any of the facility information. So progress on deferred maintenance, any changes, updates, and those kinds of things. I need to acknowledge the work of Dr. Jones and the academic deans, institutional research, IR, and the facilities team, because they actually provide all of the content, and I just assemble the soup. So it is my pleasure to present that. It needs to be approved by you, and it goes to the state by the end of the month. It gets posted on our webpage, so that is viewable. Remember, this is for the state's fiscal year 25. This report is required for us to submit. The second piece of that is the project request, which we can choose to submit. We will resubmit the LRC for fiscal year 25 as it moves forward, but Lisa will give you an update now on where we are with the fiscal year 24 submission request.
All right, thank you, Vicki.
So you may remember we have talked to you twice now about our LRC, our Learning Resource Center, and that being our primary, our top project request. We have submitted that both in 21 for the 22 and 22 for the 23. So that's what we have now. We are again asking you to approve the LRC as our highest priority project request. We are sitting in an odd timing position in that the state did not elect in June, when they passed the overall comprehensive budget, to include a capital outlay budget proposal. So the state has deferred that conversation to this fall. So we are awaiting their final decision as to whether they're actually going to run, the state, a capital outlay project or not. We have worked very diligently, Dr. Lepper and many others, to make sure that the LRC is included in the approved list. So we are on the list, so to speak. Doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. We are cautiously optimistic that they will run a capital outlay plan. And if they do, that we will remain on the list, and the state will choose to fund half, remember they fund half for us, of our top priority or LRC project. Total project is $33.6 million. The state would fund half of that as our request. So because we're in this odd timing space, and to Vicki's point, we have to, by state regulation, have this approved, submitted, and posted, we are remaining with the LRC. If the state does not choose to run a capital outlay plan, or we aren't on that final list, we will be back with the conversation around the LRC, because it's clearly our top priority, and a conversation as to whether we want to self-fund that project or not. We would certainly be back to you with that conversation. If series of events. They choose not to run, and we choose in some form to move forward anyway. Sneeden is our next project. Based on the overall comprehensive master plan that we have in place, looking at the projects on that list and aligning that with what the state is likely to fund. The parking ramp, as an example, we know is a huge looming opportunity for us. The state's not going to entertain that as part of a capital outlay project. So matching what our master plan says with what the state would consider funding, Sneeden would be the next top priority project. So at some point, if the dominoes don't fall with the LRC getting approved, we may be back to you looking to move that top request to Sneeden. And you will see that if you've looked at the capital outlay 5-year plan, you'll see that kind of running through that document as talking about Sneeden being the next one on the list, and that's intentional. So we will continue to keep you updated, but to Vicky's point, we would request your consideration for approval of both the 5-year plan and the LRC continuing to be our top priority project.
I'll accept a motion to grant board support for the submission of that plan.
So moved.
Is there support for that?
Right.
Are there questions or any discussion on that from trustees?
I know the LRC building is dated, but what more specifically is that's in the renovation?
Want me to go? Or Jim, you can come up too if you want. If you recall, when we had the MDE civil rights audit last year about this time, there were some significant ADA issues in the LRC. It has that middle kind of mezzanine area. So this is proposed as a really major to the exterior wall renovation and update, and potentially in addition to improve curb appeal to Ransom Street. So it's a lot of infrastructure, it's a lot of changes to the facility in itself. Any of the HVAC and elevators and all of those kinds of things would be part of this. This is a major overhaul to that facility.
Really what we are looking to do is transform the current Learning Resource Center into a resource and support center for students once they're here on our campus, and a one-stop shop, if you will, for more current resources, research opportunities, small and large gathering and learning spaces for students equipped with the right technology, allowing students to come and take an online course or some sort of hybrid course while they're on campus waiting for their next in-person course, bringing some tutoring and other support services into the same facility, and really looking to bring that entire facility up to where it needs to be to support the learning of all of our students, both in all 4 of our schools, really the way they need and deserve to be supported in one shop. You tell we've been talking a lot about this with our state legislators, really trying to make sure they fully understand how critical this is to meet the needs of our students.
And I believe that facility is close to 50 years old and has not had any major renovation since it was constructed in the mid-70s. So it is time.
Any other questions? Vicki, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to follow up on that statement, though, if I may. We originally submitted this project for fiscal year 23, so we're now talking about fiscal year 25. And I just want to publicly, for the campus community and for the community at large, acknowledge the work of Lisa and Dr. Lepper on this project, because they have been tirelessly advocating with our legislators for this project and for this community. So if for some reason it's not on the list, it's not for lack of effort, and if it is on the list, it is due in large part to their efforts, and I want this community and the campus to know how hard they're fighting for us.
Thank you. All right, let's vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you very much. That leads us to our final opportunity for public comment. Again, if there's anyone who wishes to address the board on any matter relative to the college, you may come forward and do that at this time. I'm seeing no one doing that, and so we're going to move on then to final board comments. Trustees, anyone? Final comments from any trustee? Anyone?
I have a comment.
Brandy.
I have found myself at some community events and always in the mix or mist of DRCC professionals, and continue just to be so impressed with the caliber of the professionals and their depth of investment in making this a high-quality choice. So just continue to say kudos for their investment and how they show up in public spaces.
Yeah,
So thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
I had the opportunity to join a couple of trustees that are here, in addition to President Lepper and Dr. Jones and other folks from faculty and staff in the community engagement event that took place at the Hispanic Center of Western Michigan. And I just want to say thank you to the folks that made that happen, both at the event and behind the scenes. I'm a strong believer that being in community consistently and showing up for community is a big part of our role, and so I was happy to get the invitation, and I look forward to other community events in different pockets of the city or the counties, and so just wanted to throw that out there. If anything else comes up or other opportunities, I'm happy to see that through.
Thank you.
And then on a side note, from someone that spent a significant amount of time in the library during my college time, I just want to say how supportive I am of the Resource Center and everything that it represents, from pockets that make it more inviting for our scholars or our community, to the technology that it brings. And so I just want to say thank you to all that are championing that work.
All right. Anyone else? If not, thank you so much. Our meeting is adjourned.
Before you all leave, Natalie, the student, wants a picture with everybody. Come on up and we'd get a picture with you guys in front here.